What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mr. DIY, where today I'm going to be cleaning the carburetor on this Briggs and Stratton powered generator. Let's get started. I'm going to be doing most of this on my butt because this is a big boy, and my back says we're not picking it up and putting it on a workbench today. All right, and we're going to start like I usually do when it comes to gasoline engines. I'm going to put on some gloves, so go ahead and get you some rubber gloves and put them on. Take this off and see what's going on here. Now this generator, I know is going to be a great prospect for this video, because I know how long it's been sitting up for. This generator's been sitting up for approximately 3 years, which is funny because it was purchased approximately 3 years ago. So essentially this guy never used it. It's just been sitting in his garage. Hell, it's been sitting in a swamp from what it looks like, and has gotten no love. So what we're here to do today is figure out why gasoline is dumping out of the carburetor like crazy. Now you can see I just turned the fuel on here. I just turned on the fuel. You can already see immediately there's fuel steadily dripping from the carburetor. That, my friends, is a surefire sign your carburetor is dirty. It needs to be cleaned. Today we're going to start by doing what I've shown you in other videos. We're going to take out the spark plug. We're going to put some fresh fuel in the cylinder. Put the plug back in, turn everything on except for the gas, leave that off. We're going to turn on the ignition, and we're going to try to start it and see if it pops and backfires and sputters. If it does, then our engine likely is in good mechanical condition. We just have a fuel delivery issue, so that's where we're going to go next. Okay, you can see on this guy, spark plug is located right here. You want to grab that plunger, pull it off. And if you look in there, where I just pulled it from, you'll see the top of that spark plug. All right, we're going to take our spark plug wrench, go back to that spark plug, and put that wrench on there. Let's see if we can't break her free. It would appear that the spark plug on this generator is difficult to get out. Oh, but I got it. All right, so in diagnosing small engines, you must know that they need 1, air, 2, fuel, and 3, they need spark. We're gonna check for spark. Got the plug out. I'm gonna ground it out on the frame here. Let's see if we give her a gentle pull, not hard. See if we get a spark out of her. I don't know if you can see that with the camera. We are getting a spark. Now, the camera might not be able to pick that up, but we are getting spark, so we know this is working. All right, so we know she has spark. Now we know that in failing to start, it must be an air fuel problem. I already know that it's fuel because it's leaking everywhere, but I just figured I'd show you how to diagnose that. Now we're going to take my handy dandy plastic cup with my handy dandy syringe, get some fresh, hashtag fresh gasoline, non-ethanol, and we're going to put some directly into the cylinder and give it a whirl and see if she'll fire up for us. All right, so I'm going to see if you can see the spark plug hole down in there. That's where we're going. We're going to take our syringe. It's not actually fitting in there. Well, I don't know if I can get this in there. Adapt and overcome. There you go. Now we can get some fuel into our cylinder there. Is that even going in there? I can't tell. All right, now that we've got some fuel in there, we're going to take our spark plug and very carefully put it back in. There's fresh fuel and everything. We don't want to spark it and set our generator on fire. The goal here today is to save this little guy, or big guy, not kill it. If you ever have trouble getting to a socket like that, or anything for that matter, you can get one of these socket extensions. It's rounded. I bought mine at Harbor Freight just because I don't need them on a professional level. I can put that on the spark plug and I'll be able to turn it now with my wrench from the outside because it's giving me a better angle. All right, then we're going to take our spark plug wire See the spark plug down in there? Probably not. There you go, right there. Put that back on and snap it in. All right, let's see if we can get any smoke out of her. Get some life. It's live. Okay. Okay, so now that we know that this engine has life, we're going to take apart the carburetor and get it cleaned up. We're going to start by taking off this nut here, and there's another one in this hole here. That is a 10mm socket. Just be careful with those 10mm. If you set them down, they will run away. If you turn wrenches for a living, you know what I'm talking about. This is also where your angled extension comes in handy. As you can see, it's not a straight line to the bolt. I'll be able to get around this frame rail here. All right, once you get those two nuts off, this plastic shroud for the carburetor, or for the air filter, I should say, is going to come loose. Well, metal, not plastic. You can pull it off this rubber hose, and we're going to set that aside. Now, our carburetor from this point on is going to be held on by just the linkages here. So this has an electric sensor here, so we're going to disconnect the electrical component first, and then we're going to take off all these different linkages so we can take the carburetor to the workbench and get it cleaned up. All right, so we've disconnected our wires here for the solenoid on the bottom of the carburetor. We're going to slowly pull this guy off and work these linkages loose as we go. Take off this bolt up here that's holding on the choke lever. All right, now that we got off the bracket there that held on the choke, and slide the carburetor all the way off the two studs here. Remove the choke line, and to remove this retention spring, and we're going to remove our throttle. All right, now carburetor is ready to go to the workbench and get worked on. All right, we are at the workbench. Turn on the light, where all the magic happens. Now, we're going to take this guy apart. We're going to start with a Phillips head screwdriver. Going to take this bottom off. And then, as soon as we get that done, we're going to pull off the solenoid. We'll come back to that later. All right, now that we have that off, we're going to take off the bottom bolt here, which is a 9/16. Make sure our socket's in the right direction, and we're just going to take that loose. All right, and you can see on that's got a lot of buildup on it. So let's see what the inside looks like, and surprisingly, not as bad as I thought it would. You can see it has some of this grime in here. A lot of this stuff will help gum up all these little bitty pieces. So this is definitely a sign that's been sitting up for quite a while. Now what this is a float in a carburetor. I've explained it before on a small engine. This literally does what it sounds like. It floats up and down in the fuel to open and close a little needle valve that's in here to allow fuel in, and then to stop the flow once it floats to the top and closes the valve. If this guy gets stuck in either position, whether it be the down position or the up position, it is going to cause you problems. So we're going to go pull the pin out, which I can look at it and you see all kinds of buildup on there. And then we're going to take out the float very gently with the needle. There we go. You can see it has some dirt on it. We need to clean that. That's basically all we're going to need to take off on here. Now, there is a jet down inside of this hole. And that jet is probably caked up full of junk. Let's see. I cannot tell if it is in there or not. That jet is likely clogged, causing the fuel to go through the overflow on the back side of the carburetor here, which was causing it to leak out of the back side in the early part of the video. You also see there's a torn gasket here. I'm going to order this gasket. I'll put it back together today to get it running, but I'll have to replace that gasket when it comes in. So let's go to the next step. We're going to take our handy dandy WD-40. I'm going to start off by trying to clean this guy up a little bit. Looks like he's got a lot of buildup on the little holes there. After I put a little WD-40 on, I'm going to take this little brush, just kind of knock the grime out of the threads there and the little holes. Spray it out a little bit better. Alright, it's probably cleaned up enough. If you also happen to have a little can of compressed air, I highly suggest knocking some of the dirt out of these parts with that. Or an air compressor with a blower attachment works too. I'll do that. And then I want to take the bowl here, give that a thorough rinse out with some WD-40. All right, then we want to clean the float, which is absolutely disgusting. You can see the needle here. It doesn't have anything on the tip there, which can cause it to not allow fuel in. I don't think that was our issue, as fuel was dumping out all over the place. But since we're in here, we're going to go ahead and clean this guy up too. Clean up the needle. We're going to just take our rag here, just kind of wipe the dirt and junk off this guy. And the same thing with the needle. I'll clean that off really well. All right, then we're going to move to the main body of this guy. So fuel comes in here, the float allows it to come in here, and it fills the bowl, and then it is pushed through here, through these holes in this bolt, into what is the jet on the inside. So I don't see daylight through there. Can't quite tell if it's clogged or not, but what I will do, spray some WD-40 inside that hole, let it sit for a second, and then look on the inside of the carburetor here and see if I see any fuel dripping out of that needle, or WD-40 I should say. And I don't see anything coming out of it. So what we may have to do is take and I showed you this in a previous video, take a sewing needle, and we may have to actually unclog that jet if it's got something in there giving it a problem. All right, so I've decided that that jet is clogged. I can see no daylight through there whatsoever, and I do believe that it is clogged up. So we're going to go ahead and take a small flathead screwdriver. These Briggs and Stratton jets have a flat bladed screwdriver slot on them, so you just want to put that in there and be gentle with it. If you damage this, you may have to replace the whole carburetor. You're just going to unscrew that. All right, that is unscrewed. So now I'm going to tap that out. Take a little tapping to get it out. There we go. All right. So now, if you look down in there, you can see light. So the brass fitting down in there, the actual jet itself, is cleared. This little guy, on the other hand, is not. Oh, so we're going to clean him up. So I'm going to use WD-40. WD-40 is great for cleaning small engines. It is a light solvent, so it'll help remove a lot of that buildup in there. Just kind of work it in there, and then take your sewing needle and carefully, don't stab it through your finger, just kind of work it in there. You see the tip of the needle is actually coming through already, but I can't push it all the way through because it's got so much junk in there. So this may take you a little bit of working to actually clear, but you should be able to pull that needle. That sewing needle should eventually go all the way through. You may have to, like I said, work it a couple of times, but you can get that cleared up. As you can see now, it's getting much easier. See, it's getting much easier to clear up. If you have to, you can put a little bit of WD-40 in a little cup and then just drop this in it for, half hour and come back, and it might make it a little easier to clean up. You can see light clearly through there now. So this was definitely clogged. That was another problem. All right, so all that's left to do now is to put her back together. I'm going to start by taking the jet that I took out of here. I'm going to put a little bit of WD-40 in that opening, lube it up. I'm going to put the jet back in. All right, then we're going to take our float, which has been newly cleaned, take the needle, reinsert it back in here. Now if you look, there's a hole on this side. It's like a keyhole. It's bigger there than it is on the back side. You just want to push the head through there and slide it over. There's a spring on there. The spring will help it go up and down as the float travels up and down. And if that's not properly in there, then it won't function right. You're going to take your bowl, put your bowl back on. You're going to take the bolt for the bottom, put it back in, thread that back down, tighten this bolt back up. And then we're going to put the solenoid back on. Now, do make sure that this is free. See how it's bouncing back? If you push this and it stays, or you can't push it in, you either need to clean it further or throw it away and get a new one. There is a way to override these, but that's not what I'm doing today. All right, let's knock some of the, let's make sure it's nice and clean. Get some more WD-40 on that. I just want to tap it out on the workbench. You can see where I did it a second ago, how much trash came out of the inside. And you see how it's getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. Put this back on. Put a little bit of WD-40 on that O-ring there. Put it back on, and we want to put our screws back in. All right, we're gonna go put it back on the generator. See if we can't get her to come back to life. All right, so we are ready to put her back together. I'm gonna start by taking our carburetor. We're gonna take our linkage, slip it back in the top here, and take that retaining spring, or governor spring, whatever you want to call it, put it back in its hole, and then we're gonna take the choke cable, put it back where it belongs. Then we can come along, slide our carburetor back on the plate there. Once we do that, we're gonna take our fuel line, route it to the right spot at least. We'll take our fuel line, we'll put it back on the carburetor. All right, once we get our carburetor fuel line hooked back up, we're gonna take the back plate here. We're gonna set it in place. We're gonna take our 10mm socket. Where'd the 10mm go? Oh, I found it. It tried to run away. I caught it when it was in the process of rolling down the driveway. We're gonna put our nuts back on here. All right. We're almost ready to start this guy back up. I do want to put my retaining clip back on here that held on the choke cable. And once I do that, we're gonna see if we can't get her started. Don't forget that hose, that breather line for the case needs to be pushed back in the top of that air filter box there. All right, we've got it put all back together. We've got fresh fuel in the tank, and we're ready to try to crank her up. See if we get some life out of her. I just shut it down. She fired right up. Took a second to get the fuel going, but she works. Do have a few other issues we need to fix, like that fuel leak right there, and got to get the electric system put back together for the starter. That's a mess too. But we cleaned the carburetor, we got it to run, and that was today's video goal. She didn't run, now she runs. We got it put back together, and the motor fires up. So we'll address these other issues in the future, but for now, cleaning the carburetor was the goal. We got it done. Thanks again for watching my video, y'all. If you like this video, don't forget to like it, and tune in next time for more repairs and DIYs. Thanks a lot.